Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Chioma Stitches and my name is Chioma. Today we are going to be sewing a long sleeve bodycon gown with flare and a bit of embellishment. If this is something you are interested in, definitely keep watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I want to welcome all the old subscribers and the new subscribers alike. You guys are welcome. Compliment of the season to you all. Happy New Year from wherever you're seeing this. Also, if you are meeting this channel for the first time, I hope you decide to subscribe and stick around with us. You will not regret it. So I'm working with these two fabrics. The one under is very stretchy. Okay, it's very stretchy, and when you are placing your fabric, you place it the part that is very stretchy will be on the horizontal part, so that it will take up the measurement of your body. Okay, the horizontal part of your measurement. So if the fabric is stretchy on all sides, do well to choose the part that is more stretchier to keep on this direction. Now this one I'm using for the flare is not stretchy, but a bit stretchy on one side, and that doesn't matter because I'm going to be using a strong peplum stay on this to stiffen it, because we want this flare to stand. Okay, and I have 2 yards of fabric for the flare, and I have over 2 yards for this. Okay, and then I have my matching thread, white thread, and this fancy bias I'm going to be using to embellish it. Okay, so for the full length of this gown, I'm going to be making it a length 39 inches because I'm going to be hemming the down part with 1 inch, and we're going to come down to 38 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark out 39 inches. My shoulder measurement is 7.5 inches, that is 15 inches. But I'm going to be marking 7 inches because the fabric is very stretchy. I'm going to take out the 1 inch shoulder slanting because I'm using this pattern for both the front and the back, and there will be no zipper on this dress. And then for the armhole, I'm going to be using 7 inches for the armhole. To get your armhole, you divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inches. For me, it's about 7.2, but I'm going to be using 7 inches. Like I said, the fabric is stretchy, so I'm using 7 inches. Okay, and now I'm going to get the middle of the 7 inches, and I'm just going to mark it, taking half of an inch, connect the half of an inch to the shoulder slanting, and then use my curved armhole roller to take out the armhole. For the neckline, I am using 3 inches for the neckline, and that's for the neckline width. And then for the depth of the neckline, for the front neckline, I'm going to be marking down 4 inches, and I'm going to use my curved rule to connect it. Now for the back neckline, I'm going to come down to say 9 inches or 9.5 inches. Okay, depending on what you want. I want it to stay just at the top of my bra, because I've taken the measurement from my shoulder at the back to where my bra is going to stop, and I'm going to be using this curve to give it like a V shape, a curved up V shape. So I'm going to trace it from this front neckline. So I'm going to be connecting this neckline to the shoulder slanting. So now we're going to input our other measurements. From my shoulder to my hip line, we have 25 inches. From shoulder to the bust, I have 10.5 inches. And for my waistline, I am marking, from shoulder to the waistline, I am marking 16 inches. So all these measurements, you are going to take them on your body or on your client's body before you transfer them to the fabric. Okay, because it's a very stretchy fabric, you don't want it to have some folds and bulkiness. I'm going to be minimizing the measurements I need. My hip is 43 inches. 43 inches divided by 4 is going to give you 10.75. Okay, so I'm going to be using 10.5. And this 10.5, I will also be sewing with the same. I'm not adding the sewing allowance. Like I said, the fabric is stretchy. Okay, this 10.5, I'm going to come down here at the bottom, the hem of the skirt, the gown. I'm going to be marking 9 inches. And I'm going to connect that like so. My waist is 28 inches. 28 inches divided by 4 is going to be 7 inches. I'm going to mark 7 inches. My bust is 35 inches. Divided by 4 is going to be 8.75. Okay, let me mark the whole 8.75. So I'm going to connect this. Now for the bodice, I am not going to be adding any seam allowance. But for the shoulder, I am going to be adding half of an inch for joining the shoulder, and I am going to be adding 1/4 of an inch around the neckline. This is so that when you are sewing the neckline, it will come back to the exact measurement you originally anticipated or wanted. So I'm adding a quarter of an inch here for hemming, okay, for sewing the neckline, because I'm going to be cutting facing for the upper bodice. I'm just going to add half of an inch around the armhole for joining the sleeve. I'm going to pin this down and cut out my pattern. Okay, so I've used the first pattern to cut out the other one exactly the same way. Now it's time to differentiate it by neckline. So first I'm going to cut out the front neckline, okay? For the front neckline, I can just cut the two of them together. And then for the back neckline, which will be this one on the top, I'm going to be cutting only the back piece, okay? I'm going to be using this the way it is to cut out the facing. This is an already drafted pattern for my sleeve, okay, and I'm going to be leaving the link to how I drafted this in the description box. This is for those of you who may not know how to draft a basic sleeve pattern. And as you can see, I added half of an inch sewing allowance on this sleeve pattern, and this half of an inch sleeve sewing allowance, I can decide to take it out or still use it, but I'm going to be using this because this is my exact sleeve measurement, just half of an inch sewing allowance that I might take out. Okay, so I have my sleeve pattern. Okay, so I have the facings all cut out. I'm going to start sewing from the facing. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the neckline for both of them. This is the front piece. I have sewn the facing and top stitch it. Of course, when you sew the facing, you turn it and top stitch it. I've done the same thing for the back piece as well. So I'm going to be joining the shoulder so that I can attach the sleeve, okay? And here is the sleeve. I have hemmed the edge of the sleeve, okay? So the sleeve, I've hemmed the edge of the sleeve so that we can sew it to the bodice. So I'm going to go ahead and join the shoulder and then attach the sleeve. And so I've gone ahead to join the shoulder, and as you can see, I've ironed the neckline. This is the front and this is the back with the deep V shape. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the sleeve to it. I'm just going to go ahead and attach the sleeve, sew from one end to the other. Okay, so I've joined the sleeves, and next we're going to be sewing the sides. So just go ahead and join the side. Now, because I have half of an inch sewing allowance on the sleeve when I was cutting it out, I'm going to sew with more than half of an inch. I will use 1 inch sewing allowance from the sleeve all the way down to the hem. And then I am going to hem the edge before we attach the flare. And after joining it here, we're going to be creating a slit at the back for easy movement, okay? And I want this slit to be up to 6 inches high. So I'm going to be coming up by 6.5 inches, okay? So I had to create an opening. I had to mark the center of the back piece. That's where the slit is going to be. And because it's a very stretchy fabric, we don't want it to fray or to move around, and I'm going to use this soft stay. I'm going to place it exactly on the middle of the line, and I'm going to iron the stay on it so that when I cut it open, this place will not move. It will still be controlled. I can still hem it, but I'm just going to make a notch of 6 inches, and then I'm going to try and hem it a little bit. So I am going to come up here and measure the 6 inches. I'm going to mark this 6 inches and I will open it. So I'm just going to cut a straight line, and then when I get here, when I get close to the 6 inches, I'm going to mark out my half an inch, or you can use 0.7 inches, and I'm going to cut this like a V shape. So I'm just going to go in by a little bit, like so, taking out like 0.25 inch on both sides. Now this 0.25 inch is going to allow me space to hem this place. I'm going to hem this place down like so, and I'll also hem here. I'm going to overlock here like so, keeping it like this so it doesn't tear more than this. Lock here like so, and then hem the slit to each side. Hem this one to this side and hem this one to this side and iron it. And now for the flare part of this dress. Now usually if I was going to attach this, say at the hem of the skirt, like sewing it directly exactly at the hem, then you have to measure the circumference of the hem and use it to cut out your flare. But for this, I am going to be gathering it. It has to have a bit of a gather around it. So the flare has to be in excess. It has to be in excess more than the circumference of where I am going to attach it. So for that, I am not exactly having an exact measurement where I am going to attach it. And I want to cut out two of this flare because one is going to be a lining to the other. So I'm going to start by dividing it so I can know, so I will not trespass. Okay, so I have 35 here. If I divide it in half, I can mark out here. Now let's start with this part. So from here, I can just use 7 inches. So what I have left will be 18. Let's just keep on 18. Okay, so I've cut out the flare, and you can use the exact circumference of where you are working with to cut it out, or you can use more than what you need. So I cut it out. It's in pieces, but 2 of them is going to be the top layer, the other 2 is going to be the lining piece. And I also cut out this one that will be the top layer. So this one is shorter than the first one, so you can see there's a difference here. So I'm going to be ironing strong stay on this. This is the stay I am going to be ironing. I think very strong. I'm going to iron this stay on one layer of this, the lining piece or the top layer. Just iron it on. I'm going to iron it on one of them, and then before I rehem the sew it to conceal it, I'm going to show us that. But first, I am going to be joining this. Before I iron it, I am going to join it only on one side and leave the other side open. So I'm going to join one side, and then I'm going to iron it on the wrong side. Iron the stay on the wrong side of it. I've joined the flare at the edge here, and like I said, I did not cut it with the exact circumference because I'm going to be gathering it. This is the top side, and this side I have ironed stay on it to give it that firmness. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sew this. I'm going to go ahead and sew the side and sew the center as well, and I will join this opening here. I will now leave this place open for turning the whole pattern inside out, and I will repeat the same thing for this other one that is going to be the top layer, which is the shorter part. Okay, so here I have gone ahead to sew it round, and I sewed here as well, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it inside out. I'm going to go ahead and iron this, and of course overlock here to keep it together. Also, here is the pieces that came out from the flare when we're cutting out the flare. Okay, these are the edges. This is the circumference for the flare. So these pieces, I am using it as well. So I just pick them and join them together to join the sides, sew the sides, and leaving a little bit of an opening where you can turn it inside out as well, because I have use for this, and I'm going to show us what I'll do with it when we are done sewing the dress. This is going to be for the slit at the back, to design the slit at the back. So I have 3 of it. Okay, they are not exactly the same shape because the flare, one of the flare is big and the other flare is this smaller. So guys, here I've gone ahead to sew the sides. So I've sewn the sides and I have hemmed the slit. I've hemmed the slit to one side. So this hemming gum is helping to keep it in place and give it some steadiness around there. And look at how it looks from the right side. Look at how clean it looks. Okay, and then so let me turn it inside out. Yeah, looking so clean. So what I'm going to do now is attach. I'm going to start embellishing it. I'm going to sew this on it. And this back, I am going to start attaching this on the neckline. I'm going to sew it on the neckline all the way to the front and around the neckline. And I can choose to make maybe a bow at the back. So you can create anything. You can create a bow at the back, a very small bow, just at the end, at the top tip of the V here. You create a bow here and sew it. So create a bow at the back there and sew it all the way on the neckline to the front. It is because of the slit that I have this. So I'm going to gather these fabrics and sew it here. I'm going to sew it at the slit so that the slit will not be left open. So I'm going to use a thread to pass the thread on this, and I'm going to sew it in the center, and I will gather it and sew it round the slit. I'm going to show us how I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to also attach the flare. Now to sew the flare to this, I'm going to start sewing the flare on the wrong side, like 1 inch above the hemline, 1 inch or 2 inches above the hemline, and I'm going to start sewing it. So I'm going to sew it like this and reverse, sew it around, and gather any part that is excess. Just give it a little pleat to give it that waviness that is going to come, and the stay inside the fabric is going to help to give it the consistency I want. I'm going to place that, and then I'm just going to go up by 1 inch from where I placed this one, and I'm going to place the second one. So I've gone ahead to attach the first layer, as you can see. So I sewed it on this side, so when you turn it this way, it comes out looking this way, looking clean. And I have some pleats around. I had to pleat the parts, the excesses around it to give it more fullness. And then I have not attached the second layer, and as you can see on the neckline, I've attached the applique. Okay, look at how it looks. Okay, and I made a bow here. Although this bow, I still need to tack it a little bit to keep it in place the way I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and tack. I'm going to tack this to keep the bow the way I want it to be. I'm going to get to that later. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to run a loose stitch on this. So I just want to run a loose stitch on this and gather it. Okay, so this is it. I'm going to be attaching this here at the slit. So the slit is going to look really busy. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the second flare I'm going to sew it on 1/2 inch or 1 inch above the first one, and then I'm going to sew this on the slit, the part that does not have the flare on it. Okay, and I'm going to try this on and show us how it looks. Don't forget to give your inner weaving to keep your work neat inside and out. Also, if this is not busy enough for you, if you want to like embellish it any further than this is your playground. Go ahead and do your magic, and see you guys in my next tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe. I would also appreciate it if you can share this video so that this community can grow. See you guys in my next tutorial. Bye bye and happy new year.